Okay, today's Q&A is about containers of packaged food. And the question is as follows. We know that metal and glass require tefillah. So why is it that I could take, let's say, pickles out of a glass jar or tuna out of a metal can, and if they were never toiveled, why am I allowed to use them if they were never toiveled? And the place can give two answers, two explanations for why this is okay. The Maral Diskin says that you're not allowed to use a container that didn't have tefillah. You're not allowed to. But if the food's already in there, then you don't have to do the tefillah until you've emptied it out. And there's no specific requirement to empty it out quickly. When it gets empty, that's when you'll do the tefillah's kelim. So you can take your time emptying it out. Eat your pickles or your tuna when you choose to, and when it's finally empty, then you'll be able to, and you'll be required to do the tefillah at that point. That's what Maral Diskin says. Ramosha has a different answer. He has a broader answer, and he says you can even put new food, even after it's empty, you can put food into it without toiveling it. And he says as follows. He says, when you buy a container, let's say a glass jar of pickles, the container is not considered to be a food utensil. It's just packaging material. Okay, it does not have the status of something used for food, because right now it's just a way of getting it from the factory into your house. It's considered tuffle, like secondary to the food, and it does not have the status of a kli that needs tefillah. If you decide that you want to keep that pickle jar and hold other things put other food into it afterwards, you're the one who created this kli. You didn't physically create it, but you're the one who changed its status from being packaging material to being a food container, and therefore you don't need tefillah, because a Jew is the person who gave it that status, and therefore it would not require tefillah. Okay, now that's all from the perspective of the consumer who buys these packages. He is not required to toivel them before he buys them. According to Moshe, he wouldn't even be required to toivel them even after he empties it out. What happens from the other side? What about the manufacturer? Does he have to do it? He's putting food into these glass or metal containers. Does he have to toivel them before he fills them with the food? So what the Maral Diskin said is not relevant here, because he has an empty bottle and he wants to fill it up. So what the Maral Diskin said was you can empty as slowly as you want to. Obviously, it's not relevant. But what Moshe says is because for the seller, again, it's not a food container. For him, it's packaging materials just to get the food from here to there, and therefore there's no chiv of tefillah. There's another factor here that's not relevant so much what we were talking about, which is since it's used for storage, there's a question whether containers that are used they're not used for cooking or for eating, but they're used for storage. There's a question whether those require tefillah. So that's another factor to keep in mind in this case. Okay, now some people say that this idea of what much like this packaging material is not meant for food. They say the same thing would be true is if I buy a platter and I want to use it to send a shalach manos to somebody, or I want to send food to someone's house, and I buy a platter just to, let's say, for a Shalom Zachar, I buy a platter to give to them. The person who bought the platter and filled it with the food does not have to do tefillah, because for him, it's, here we not call it packaging material, here we call it klei schayra. It's something for business, it's not meant for eating. From my perspective, this is not for eating. Excuse me. It's just a way to get the food from here to there. I don't intend it for eating, and therefore it's not chayav in tefillah. Now, based on that logic, which some people hold of, some candy stores do not do tefillah when they create platters on metal or glass trays that they sell to consumers. From their perspective, they look at it as a packaging material or klei schayra, and they take the position that it's not required in tefillah, which means to say is that the consumer who buys that platter, he bought it from a store that was owned by a Jewish person. He might imagine that person is toiveling it because, of course, Jewish people would toivel glass and metal before they use it. In fact, the store might be taking the position that it doesn't require tefillah for them, and therefore they didn't toivel. So it's worthwhile to speak to the store beforehand and find out, to find out whether they do or don't toivel it, so you can know what to do with it once the tray gets emptied out.